You ever just lie awake at night just knowing that your most viewed video of all time is a One Direction Drag Me Down track review? No, just me? Hey neighbor, welcome back to Beyond ARTV. I have just one question for you. Who is the best ex-One Direction member, and why is it Harry Styles? In this video, I want to explore a non-fandom mentality, something where I had a genuine interest in somebody's music outside of the obsession part that came along with it for a lot of people. I know that their audience definitely skewed younger, like any boy band really would, but let's look at the rise to fame of One Direction and the solo careers that have played out since then, and why I feel that Harry reigns king supreme. Take it back to 2010 and the English-Irish boy band is just getting founded as a result of Simon Cowell and Psycho Music kind of putting together a group as you would do for a talent competition. This time it was the X Factor in the UK. 5 extremely successful albums, tons of sold-out tours around the world. One Direction finally decided to put it on an indefinite hiatus, which I think we can say the B word, breakup at this point, well into the 2020s. History was made, but bridges were walked and then burned after they were walked across, as Zayn Malik departed the group after the release of 4 in 2015. It was a very tumultuous time for both the fans and the fandom, and it led to the first solo material coming out from somebody in One Direction. I always kind of had a soft spot for them, even as a critic, because I could see some of the ideas and the talent that they were racing towards, and I thought they were getting better as they went along, as they started to bud as songwriters and had more creative control. I can see on the outside why it's so easy to dismiss their music and tear it apart limb from limb and say, well, this is just a ripoff of this, or this is a blatant stylization and repackaging of this song or this work, and they definitely did a lot of that, but that's on their collaborators. Yeah, it's partially on them too. But again, this was a launching pad for something bigger. Zayn Malik, Louis Tomlinson, Niall Horan, Liam Payne, Harry Styles. We're gonna go in that order, and I'm gonna break down my thoughts on each of their respective solo careers post One Direction. Zayn was the overly ambitious member of One Direction, and in many ways, him leaving the band as a result of his own mental health and well-being, it's very understandable, but I feel there was a lot of bad blood left in the water that we're never gonna fully understand. And he really just had this desire, it seemed, to move on to making solo stuff, put himself in the spotlight, let himself and his creativity shine. Reaching for the stars is kind of a noble quest. I appreciate that Zayn definitely has some artistry boiling in his DNA, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of his projects kind of get bogged down and him just trying a little bit too hard. They can be too lavish or excessive. When he debuted with Mind to Mind in 2016, I was kind of excited because some of the tracks on there slapped, but again, he's letting his ambition, the ideas, and the length of some of his projects just really get in the way of the talent that's there at its core. Whereas some of their solo careers were off to a fiery start, others fizzled out a bit more. Not to say that nobody's listening, it's just that they weren't pulling in the big numbers that some of the other members like Zayn or Niall or Harry were actually doing. And Louis Tomlinson is up next. I think he seems like a very nice, down-to-earth individual. I just don't think there's a lot of charisma to what he's brought artistically to the world, because so much of his work feels very tepid and very safe. Adult contemporary, indie rock, sometimes a little bit more of a cutting edge to some of his singles. I think that Louis is struggling to find what he wants to say, how he wants to present himself to the world. I finally got around to listening to his album Walls, and I feel very shrugging my shoulders towards a lot of it, outside of tracks like Two of Us, which are very emotional. I could see Mr. Tomlinson having a big future in the feature game, whereas he appeared on singles like Digital Farm Animals and BB Rexa Back to You. Let his vocals shine. The songwriting, it's probably not actually gonna get there, so maybe just shoehorn him into other places with collaborations. I'm not saying that he's not talented. I do enjoy his voice, but as a solo artist, it feels very subpar. Niall Horan is one of the biggest success stories of One Direction, post being in the band. He's had so many hit singles both in the UK and crossing over to other territories like here in the States. I think tracks like Slow Hands, This Town, and even Nice to Meet Ya do have a very catchy, mainstream appealing sound, and I appreciate that he branched out even more on his second LP, Heartbreak Weather. It's not necessarily always my flavor, but when it's the flavor of the week and I really want something like that, then he suits that AC sound very well. It's easy to see why Niall has connected with the masses because he's very charming, his personality, his vocals, it all checks out. And if he does more songs like Nice to Meet Ya in the future that rely a little bit more on this very British sound that has a bit more of a rock swagger to it, then I could see him actually taking over and being more favorable even to people like me. It definitely gets cheesy and stale, but I'm seeing growth there. He's laying down the roots that make me think this guy is actually going to have some solo depth in the future as he continues to release albums. Used to be in 1D, now he's out here being Liam Payne's solo career, the man that nobody really needed that from. Liam, much like Zayn, seemed intent on leaving One Direction in the rear view. Although he wasn't necessarily as harsh about it, Liam was definitely appreciative of the fans. He even posted about the 10-year anniversary and everything like that, so I'm not saying that he totally checked out. I just think that he doesn't have much of a personality when it comes to the music that he chooses to give to us. Everything feels very shoddy, like it was just put together overnight, even though I know there's huge teams surrounding him trying to make him this big post-One Direction star, although it's not really working out. Don't hold your breath, because it's more than likely going to end up in a train wreck of cringe, because I think Liam and a lot of his stuff, the people he chooses to collaborate with, the producers he has on, it's like he's not able to find his own guiding light, so he chases the star of somebody else, and that's why his own is fading. Now finally we get to the solo career of Mr. Harold Styles, an individual who in One Direction I could already see as a very talented, prominent member, a voice that definitely stood out from the crowd. Even when I couldn't necessarily tell some of the others apart, Harry always came through and knocked out his solos, so I was very excited to see him going in more of a rock direction with the solo stuff. Harry Styles' solo career blows all of the other members of One Direction out of the water, metaphorically and literally, with how explosive his rock star mentality and persona can be. I love that he's staying true to his own vision and bringing on his backing band and some collaborators and producers like Jeff Basker that do such a fantastic job at bringing out the best in Harry's visions. Harry's also brought a ton of attention back to rock and roll, and I love that, both with his performances and the actual songs. On the first album, we had stuff like Only Angel and Kiwi rocking the hell out, while on the softer side, he was able to capture something like Two Ghosts that was very personal and from the dining table. You'd be amazed at the replay factor his albums have, because I find myself throwing my vinyl copies on the turntable pretty often. I think that his voice, and the fact that he is a genuine songwriter that feels compelling, like he's a star, of course, but he has stories to tell. Worshipping older styles of music from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s is also a big thing with Harry, so he's able to transcend the decades and add a modern twist with some of the production, but at the same time, it feels like he's just taking us back to this very nostalgic, timeless place. Gun to my head, if I had to rank every ex-One Direction member in their solo careers, I would put Liam Payne last, probably in the D category. Just above that, I would put Louis Tomlinson in the C, and probably right there, just above him, I might give Zayn a B, although it's definitely more inclined to a C in recent years. And then you have Niall Horan, who has broken out with a surprising stardom and success, and I would put him in the A, but nobody's even coming close to Harry, all the way in the S tier. Who is the best ex-One Direction member? Well, obviously, I just gave you my take, but I want to know your thoughts too. If you used to be a massive fan of them, maybe you still are, you're keeping up with the solo stuff, then I want to hear from you. Don't forget to hit that like button on your way out, subscribe for the love of music. If you want to see me talk more about anybody in One Direction, then tap the cards on screen, and I'll be back soon for more right here on Beyond ARTV.